everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Elephant Talk. I spoke to the wonderful Shawn Lee from Young Gun Silver Fox today, and I had a wonderful time. For those of you who have curious eyes, I do actually have a Young Gun Silver Fox poster behind me. And if you're listening to this over on Spotify, I'm pointing behind me. But yes, I thoroughly enjoyed my chat with Shawn Lee. It was wonderful. I'm really excited for the album. Is out now, actually. Pleasure by Young Gun Silver Fox can be streamed over on all major streaming platforms. Do go and listen to it. But we had a really nice time talking about the beginning of the music industry with Shawn Lee, his introduction to Andy, who is of course the other part of Young Gun Silver Fox, and some really great points about writing music. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, Shawn. How are you?
Hello, Jen. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm doing well. How are things? How have things been going for you?
Yeah, good. Very busy. Very, very busy. I've been in America for a bit over a week and just got back and just sort of kind of getting my rhythm back with the jet lag and the album release is coming up and rehearsals are coming up and there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of interviews and scheduling stuff and people wanting things, and it's like a constant it's a constant thing, man.
Well, I feel incredibly honored that you've managed to find some time today to talk with me. By the time this comes out, Pleasure, the fifth album, Young Gun Silver Fox, will be out. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I'm quite excited. I can't wait for people to hear it. There was another single from the album Born to Dream, which was released this morning, which I didn't even know, if I'm being honest.
Did you know?
Well, no, I just looked at the when I got up this morning and saw it on Instagram. I was like, oh, okay, all right. You know what I mean? Yeah, cool. So I didn't know. I mean, so we're drop feeding people in 3 songs now, and I think we're whetting people's appetite, and it's a very, very solid album with some really great songs on it. I mean, I think the response has been tremendous for the first 3 singles, and I think it's very indicative of the quality of the album. And we did a couple of American interviews last night, and one of the people that interviewed us were honest from the very first album, and they've been big fans and supporters, and they said they thought this was our best album so far. So it was nice to hear that so early on. I mean, it's hard to know, you're so close to it, and you want to feel like it's the best thing you've ever done. When you're doing something, you're trying to up your game every time and push it forward and all that. And so, I don't know. I feel like we've done a very, very good job with this album, and I'm excited for people to hear it. And it's been worth the wait.
Yeah, because the last one, 2 years ago now, was it? Or 20?
Yeah, it was 2 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so excited. I was equally then surprised when the third single came out this morning. I was like, yes, Born to Dream. Amazing. You mentioned in a video that you posted on social media that you to promote the album and stuff, how Young Gun Silver Fox have a traditional sound, have that sound that they go to. And the previous album, you did kind of venture from that. So would you say this fifth one, it's kind of gone back to some true Young Gun Silver Fox kind of, traditional sounds?
That's a good question. I think this album's very direct, in how it was put together, very focused, very distilled down to the essential kind of essence of what it is. Beyond that, there wasn't any other real criteria, in terms of we're going to do this or not do that. Yeah. I think the only thing we talked about is there are less horns on this album than previous ones, and other than that, I think it's just a really focused song album, and I think it sort of incorporates everything that we do and have done. It's all represented, and feeling very much, like ourselves. I feel like we've cultivated, a certain kind of, you know, musical signature
Mm.
over the course of 5 albums, and I think it's all in there. I think it's all kind of you know represented, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's no surprise that I'm a huge fan. I don't know if you can see behind me. I've got the poster from the Scala. Um,
I can't. It's so
it's
small. I
quite
can't
small there, but
unless I made you as big as I am. I'm able to.
yeah. But yeah, it's just behind me. It's yeah, you guys are great. I love the music. You're a huge inspiration to my writing as
Thank you.
well. So just from me, thank you. I'd love to know more about your beginning though, like how you were introduced, came to the music scene. How did that all start for you?
Well, back in the early 1800s, when I was working in the mines, uh, I was working on the railroad as well, part time, but um, paving the Great Western Railway across America. Basically, I grew up in Wichita, Kansas, which is in the exact middle of America, um, and I grew up, loving music and listening to music and being really captivated by it. And when I was 10, I picked up the guitar. That would have been in 1973, and I just took to it. It was a very natural, extension of my passion for music, and so I was really lapping up the sounds of the 70s, and the sort of like echoes of the 60s music.
Yeah.
um you were still hearing like kind of Motown stuff, from the 60s and the Beatles and things like that. I remember when the Beatles broke up, hearing it on the radio, the Beatles were
Yeah.
broken up, and I was like, oh my God, what?
It's
And,
huge.
and hearing that, like, Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix died and stuff
Mm.
like that. I mean, stuff was, stuff that's historical,
Yeah.
and this was just part of, my life. And so I started playing, back then, and then I picked up the drums shortly after. And, and uh, as I went into like sort of, higher education, I started to play, in school bands and sing in the choir and doing all that kind of stuff. And then when I was 16, I started to play drums professionally, um, in clubs and bars, and
Yeah.
playing all sorts of music, the music of the time, the popular music of the time, the more deep cut music of the time as well. And, bits of every kind of music, from country music to,
Mm.
to funk and soul, and, top 40 pop music, and a bit of jazz and all that kind of stuff, gospel music. And I was listening to a lot of stuff, working with older musicians, learning from them, extrapolating all the kind of wisdom and stories and all that kind of stuff. I was just really fascinated, by the days of yore, and
Yeah.
wanting to know where things came from and what older people listened to. And I wanted to get to the knowledge and extrapolate as much information from their experience that I could get, because I was young. And so I was sponging it all up, and I'm just very, musically driven and passionate about it. And I always wanted to do it.
Mm.
That's what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to be a musician, and I
Yeah.
imagined myself touring and making records, and that I was going to be a professional musician. That was always the path I saw for myself. As soon as I started to play, I knew that's kind of, that was the plan. And, and then, in 88, I moved out to Los Angeles to pursue, a professional music career, in a bigger, way, to get a record deal,
Yeah.
to make records, to kind of do it. I always wanted to, write and record my own music. And I was also always thinking about that I could also, play with other people. I could do sessions. I could work in other capacities as well as doing my own music. I never saw that being mutually exclusive. I always thought you can do a lot of different things. I can produce, I can write, I can play different instruments. I can do a solo thing. I could be in a band. It was like it was all there to be done. And I always felt like that was a more interesting approach and more healthy. And, you were constantly learning and growing and cross-pollinating. And I just thought that was the natural way to think.
Yeah.
Back then, I think the general, the general sort of consensus was that you were supposed to do one thing and become the best at it and master that, and I never believed that was something that was possible. I just thought I'll never be the best at anything. There's always somebody that's better, somebody that can play faster, somebody that's got a higher voice, whatever, somebody that's more clever. I just thought that's not something to chase. I thought the best thing to be was to be able to do a lot of different things well. So be a jack of all trades, master of none. And a lot of people were constantly telling me that how I was doing things wasn't right, that I shouldn't be doing that. But, I didn't care. I just stayed with, what made sense to me. Funnily enough, now, the way that I work is become the way that people operate now. People are doing lots of different things, constantly doing things, collaborating. It's like you can't do enough these days. It's kind of like you always have to be out there putting something out, doing something, collaborating, doing this, doing that, and I've been doing that, my whole kind of musical life. So, nobody's telling me I shouldn't be doing that now. So that's why I've been able to kind of survive, if I'm being honest, because I just have a lot of different interests and strings to my bow. And, my doggie just came in. She's going, come here, Carla.
Get me involved.
Come here, Carlita. I'm going to take her to my radio show today.
Yep. Oh, cute.
Yeah, there she is.
Hello.
Hi,
she heard
Carla.
you talking. She wants to be involved.
She does. She wants to be here with her papa, don't you, girl?
Oh, so cute.
Yeah. So, I mean, doing the radio show was something I always envisioned myself doing when I was older. I just thought, well, that's something I'd like to do, and so, you manifest these things somehow, it's not to say that everything I want to do happens, far from it, but, things have a way of, sometimes doing that, I think it's just, I think the thing is you do what you like what you do, do it for your own personal selfish reasons, and then people get on board or they don't, or 5 people get on board or 50 people or 500 or 5,000, who knows? I mean, I don't know. It's not, that's at a certain point, it's out of your control. You just do what you do. And as long as you're, doing the things that you have the passion for, that's a reward in itself.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said as well earlier, it's just like surrounding yourself with the people that like what you do. So then, or like even new people, because then you're learning from new people. You're
of course
getting better at yourself. And you yourself, you said, it's being good at a lot of things, not the master of the one. But like then you're able to like put yourself into different scenarios, work on like this with someone, work on this with someone else, and you're able to kind of learn and keep learning and keep growing as you then progress through
Exactly.
different projects. I think that's really important. And sometimes it can put like some people feel so defeated when something just stops. Oh, that's it. That's the end. But it's like, let's just see where this other, thing goes to. And I started doing this podcast. I didn't know what I'm not very good at like talking in front of the camera, even though it's kind of what I do. But it's something like live, it's in the moment, and I've really enjoyed it so far because it's picking up different skills. I'm getting to meet different people, getting to
Yeah,
talk to
totally.
different people, learn different things. I love like now I'm getting to talk to you more and get to know you better. And it's something that I didn't see happening, and now it's happening, and I'm like, cool, let's see where it takes us.
It's also it's connections. It's
Yeah,
connections, and it's like what makes people tick. What
yeah,
and like learning how people, what's different about people and what's the same about people and what you can relate to and this is all like reaffirming stuff. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I think we lack a lot of personal contact with people now. We've
yeah.
never been so connected and so disconnected, and so I think podcasts, in a way, they inhabit an interesting place and all that.
Mm. Yeah, so true. I was thinking about that the other day, actually. Like, social media, let's connect people together. And it's like, we're so disconnected, though, because everyone's just behind their phones. That's like a whole different topic
Yeah,
now as well. But yeah, it's so, you made some very interesting points. When did you move to the UK then? When was that?
I came to London in 1994. I signed a record deal over here as an artist in 1993 with a
Mm,
label called Talking Loud by Giles Peterson. And yeah, I came over after that. I'm sort of living here full time from 1995. So I've been here about 31 years now, I think.
yeah.
So I've lived over half my life here. I've actually lived, in London longer than I lived in America.
Wow.
So the whole second, you know, half of my life, I've been here. So, it's that's an interesting thing in itself for me. How those decades went by and, all the things that have happened and how it's changed me and changed my life and my perspectives on things. And yeah, it's, I don't know. It was the way that, the direction that my life led me in. And, I just jumped into it, feet
Mm.
first, as I often do. And, it's been a very interesting journey and continues to be.
Yeah, definitely. It will continue always. Like, again, going back to what you said, you're always going to continue learning in every different project you do, which is great. Yeah, how did you and Andy Platt then, Young Gun Silver Fox, what was the beginning of that?
Well, me and Andy, famously and truly came across each other on MySpace.com in, I think, 2009.
Mm.
And I don't know how. I mean, I remember coming across him on MySpace, and I don't know if he got in contact with me or if I saw him on somebody else's, you know, profile or I just remember seeing him and saying, "Who's this guy?" And I listened. I was like, "Oh, he's really good." And then I sort of sent him a message and said, "Oh, I've just introduced myself and said, I think you sound really good, and we seem to have some mutual friends, and it would be great to meet up sometime. It'd be great to you
Mm.
know do some music together." And I think that was a really good thing about MySpace in the beginning was it connected a lot of people, and put you on the radar of people and vice versa. And of course, when I sent Andy the message, he never got back to me. Um, and then I thought, oh, okay. And then, but then I don't know, a year or two later, he got in contact with me and said, "Oh, I'd be interested in producing, my band Mama's Gun." And
Mm.
so I thought, okay, great. I'd be into that. So they came down to my old studio and we did a song and it came out really well. But then it was kind of like, oh, well, maybe let's do another one. And so we did another one and that came out really well too. But then it was sort of like, decided for whatever reasons that I wasn't going to produce the album. And, but I think that connection that we made in doing those songs together, and funnily enough, I mean, I was producing, but I also was playing on the Mama's Gun stuff as well. They had me like, they wanted me in there. So, I mean, I was doing bits of drums, even though it was a band. I mean, I was playing bits of guitars, bits of drums, bits of percussion, bits of synths, bit of a few other things.
Filling out, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they like wanted to work with me, so I got involved, in a more vast contribution. But I think that's when the light bulb went off in my head about Young Gun Silver Fox. I just thought, wait a minute, me and this guy could actually make this kind of music together. Like he would be the he would be my partner in musical crime here. So we would be like Steely Dan or Hall & Oates.
Yeah.
I just thought, okay, we could do this, and I would like to do that. That's not something that I hadn't really tried to make that kind of music, and obviously it was a very strong part of me musically, but and I had flirted with elements of that, but I just thought I could really get back into doing music with a lot of chords in it, and sophisticated harmonies, and I just thought this could be a good thing. So we eventually started to cobble together the odd song here and there. I mean, he was busy doing Mama's Gun, and I was busy doing other things, and so it took a while to kind of get an album's worth of material together. But eventually, I don't know, maybe a year and a half or something of doing the occasional song until we had a whole album's worth, which ended up being our first album, West End Coast.
Yeah.
At that point, we have a record now. What do we do? What's the name of this group? How are we going to release this? And I remember having this meeting with Carly, our manager, and Andy at a cafe just down the street from me, and we just talked about broad strokes, and then suddenly, okay, well, Leger want to put it out, in Germany, and Go Entertainment in Holland want to put it out. And we were like, great, okay, we got a couple labels, and that want to do it. And then it was very much just like sort of, all right, no expectations.
Yeah.
We made a record, we'll put it out however we put it out, and and then we'll take it from there. And then suddenly something seemed to be popping off in Holland. All of a sudden we were like, there was like this response at radio, which was like, whoa. And then before we knew it, we went over there to play a gig in Amsterdam in a small club, like a 350 cap club, and the show sold out.
Wow.
And then they said, well, we're going to add a second show on the next night. And they put the tickets on sale, and it sold out in an hour. And we were like, what? we had done no promo, like nothing, it was like, wow. And we were like, well, we're going to go over there and play 2 sold out shows, like for 700 people. And we were a bit like, whoa, like we didn't see this coming. And then we went over there, and it was like, holy shit, and then we booked some more gigs, and every show sold out, but we moved up to bigger venues straight away. We went up to like the sort of, 650 to 750 kind of size, 800 size venues, and we sold out every gig we did. And in the radio, we're playing this, and they loved us, and we were like, wow, and then it just incrementally kept growing, bit by bit, and we were getting good vibes from people, and finding fans very organically, very
Yeah.
gradually, got good reviews, and people were talking about us, and there seemed to be like a lot of enthusiasm and love and support for what we were doing. And so we kind of thought, wow, this is, what an unexpected surprise. And so, that cobbled along, slowly and gradually. And then we went back and said, okay, we're going to make another record. And then we made AM Waves. And there was that moment when I was like, do we have anything left in the tank? I mean, can we do something as good as that again or better? Not sure, not being sure that we could, And then we did Midnight in Richmond. That was the first song that we did for the second album, AM Waves, and that came out really good. And then I was like, okay, we're doing this. We can do this. We've got this. Okay, this is in, you know, we've got a handle on it. So then we made that record, and that came out really great. I mean, I'm still, I think, it still sets the benchmark, that record, in many ways, for us, and I think for a lot of our fans. It's just such a solid record, and for whatever reason, and and then it just continued to grow, little by little, really organically, no hype on our part, just kind of, just doing what we do the way we were doing it, and just real organic, old school kind of thing. I mean, it was very much about the music, and the music was doing all the talking, and we just would show up and do what we needed to do, and it just kept, and then it's just been a continuation of that sort of approach. We keep going to different places, and you know, you know, spreading the word, and then we'd come back again, and then it'd be a bigger thing, or we'd almost sell out a venue, and we'd go back again, then we'd sell it out, or and it's sort of kind of try building it up brick by brick, and and so 10 years later, 5 albums in, it's continuing to grow in the same way. It's still organic, it's still a lot of word of mouth, it's still a lot of still getting new fans that are just discovering us, and we haven't lost any of our original fans, because I think we've stayed really true to what we're doing. We haven't tried to run away from what we're doing and go, oh, I want to go new wave, or I want to do a goth album now. It's
completely different.
This is what we're doing. We're not alienating fans, and we're not getting bored and going, oh, I want to put more accordion on this record, so we've established something, and it's kind of like we've built a house for ourselves, and so we're just improving the house. We're not like going, oh, I'm gonna flip this and get a bigger house. It's kind of like, no, we're gonna look after this, we're gonna like improve it, we're gonna maintain it, we're gonna, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
We're gonna cultivate that thing that we've created, and keep doing that, with love and respect, and trying to do it better every time.
Yeah, and that definitely comes across, like each album that you go through, it definitely comes across that, you're sticking to your true sound. It's just adding some little spices here and there just to take it somewhere else, but staying true to yourself. I think AM Waves was the album that I was introduced to you guys. That was the first. That's got Mojo Rising in, is that correct? That's the first song, I think.
That's correct.
And I was like, whoa, who are these guys? Hold on.
That's a great song, man. It's a great song.
I love hearing, like you said, those chords, the stacking of the harmonies and the backing vocals. Those are all things that really trigger something for me, and I just love that. So Has backing vocals been something for you that you've always wanted to kind of like that you're interested in, like wanting to bring into your own music and just hearing?
Yeah, I mean, I love harmonies and all
Mm.
that kind of stuff, and I mean, Andy's just the master of vocal arranging and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, on my records, I have definitely went to town stacking up vocals myself. I mean, it's a very it's like pleasant torture doing it. It's kind of like that sort of thing of it takes time to layer it up and get it tight, and being able
Mm.
to you know you have to be able to sing. You have to have a certain amount of technique and an ear to be able to to figure out the harmony parts and to stack them up and sing in tune with yourself and be able to sing with vibrato and no vibrato and
Mm.
different kind of vowel sounds are harder or easier to sing, and
Yeah.
places of your voice which are like difficult, like, oh, that's right, the break between my falsetto or my full voice, or do I sing it, do I belt it out, or do I sing it soft and
Yep.
in a in a head voice, or do I or sometimes there's just some words and vowels that don't sing nice, and so and it makes it tricky, you
Yep.
know, or something's out of your range, it's too high or it's too low, and so it's kind of like these things, they're it's a challenging thing to do, and
Mm.
so sometimes I, even though I feel like I have a natural abilities in that
Mm.
area, sometimes I don't want to. I want to stay away from it sometimes because it is so labor intensive to make a big
Yeah.
stack,
Yep.
But it's satisfying. But it's like a whole production in itself, And but I think Andy, Andy's so amazing at it. I mean, I'm just, I'm nowhere near, the realm that he's in terms of
Mm.
that. But I really, respect and appreciate, what he does. And I mean, live, it's a real challenge to kind of
Yeah.
distill those parts, between three people,
Oh yeah,
which
absolutely.
which means I'm jumping all over the place, from singing unisons to singing the highest part to singing the lowest part, you know,
Yep.
whatever needs to be done, is by any means necessary. And so, you have to be able to, you got to be able to find those notes and blend and sing in tune. And,
Mm.
it's a challenge, man. It's a real challenge. But I think, when we do it well, it's a real nice thing. I mean, I think singing bands are always been a rare thing,
Mm.
and so when you see a band live and they can sing together and they can harmonize and all that, it's impressive, and it's a wonderful thing. But it is it's a tough gig, man. It's the playing and the singing
Yeah.
at the same time as well. It's not easy, man. If we make it look easy, then great. But
There's lots going on to think about. Yeah.
it's not. It's a real. I mean, I've never sang that much in a band where I wasn't the lead singer. I
Okay.
mean, you're literally never away from the mic.
Mm.
Maybe for a line or two at the most, and then you're back.
Yep.
So like I'm glued to the microphone the whole time. And having to like do all my guitar duties at the same time. It's a
Mm.
lot. We're all sort of operating on, you know, at the peak of our abilities, really. Uh, but by doing that and continually doing that, you you push the boundaries of what you're able to do a bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you get better at doing it, and it becomes quicker maybe to wrestle something to the ground
Mm.
when you take on a new song. Once we can do that one, so will be able to do, you'll figure it out eventually.
Yeah.
But it does take time sometimes to get it where it feels more comfortable.
Yeah, you need to let it settle into like you're playing, and then it feels a bit more natural to do
Yeah,
it both at the same time or whatever
but
you're thinking
it's never easy though.
No, you make it look really like you don't. It doesn't look like it's you're thinking ahead or thinking all these things. You're doing a great job live, let me tell you.
Well, that's good to know. But I think we're all shitting bricks the whole time.
So much going on.
It's tough. It's tough, but it's pleasurable. But it's you know what it's the best of times, worst of times.
Yeah. So many pros, but then there are so many cons that you're just like, oh gosh. Hello. We are just popping in here for a lovely ad break, a little bit of a break of the episode. And I'm here to let you know that my debut album, Ep.8, is available to be purchased as a digital download or a vinyl record. You can find the links in the description below. However, very, very soon, you'll be able to stream it over on all the major streaming platforms. That's right, if you go over to my Spotify page, Jennifer Glatzhofer, that's me, but if you go over to my Spotify page, you can see a lovely countdown leading up to the release of Ep.8 over on Spotify, and of course, all other platforms. If you do enjoy the music that you've already heard from myself, do go and check me out over on Bandcamp. Do go and purchase a vinyl record if you have a record player at home, or the digital download. This is all very, very lovely. And of course, enjoy the rest of the episode. You mentioned some lovely things about like vowel placement and just different. I love that's where I love all that type of things, and it's really interesting when like singing live to recording, you can also just slightly shift a vowel shape because then it suddenly it sounds so different when you're studio recording, right? And then singing live, you might have to open a bit more just to get a warmer space or keep it narrow. All these things that people don't really realize that are really important, especially when you're blending with the lead singer, with Andy, right? You're wanting to sing the same phrasing or what.
I'm constantly learning, on the job. I mean, like, where do I put my voice? Like in the actual physical technique of it, if like, does it, like, how do I sing this bit, and like I don't know, it's almost like you're changing your voice box or the shape of your mouth, or where it's in the mask, or if it's from the throat or from the chest or from the head. And it's like trying to kind of access different areas of your voice, and like how that is. I'm not doing it as much in the studio because it's a contained space, and you can hear yourself better. You don't have to sing as loud, and you don't have, what I mean? It's like, in a way, it's easier to do. Live, it's sort of like
there's different factors live as
well.
well.
Yeah, exactly. It's harder to concentrate, harder to hear. And it's like something doesn't sound right, you'd be like, is that me or is that somebody else?
Yeah.
Am I a bit flat here, or do I need to push up, or you know what I mean? It's that kind of stuff. You're reacting in the moment and trying to be like, I mean, I'm really learning how to sing all the time with the technique and adjusting sometimes I think it's just how you're looking at it mentally, is a lot of it. It's like how you're imagining your voice and how you have to, manipulate your own voice to work in that moment, and adjusting, and the breathing as well. The breathing is a lot, making sure you get like, when do you breathe, and getting a big breath, but not too much of a big breath. And, it's all that kind of shit. And it's a real tricky thing, it's like remembering the words as well, and all that kind of stuff. And certain notes are like tricky, that one note there is like, I have to whatever, think sharper, or think,
don't
flatter.
Go too far. Don't go reach too far, and then you're like, I just missed it above.
It's that kind of stuff. I need to also mic placement proximity effect, and you're using that while you're singing live. Like, where do I, what's the sound that blend? And it's like sometimes I'm adjusting to somebody else and being like, I can't sing this how I would sing this because it somehow doesn't blend. So, I need to sing here on the microphone and maybe more from the chest, breathier or less breathy or all that kind of stuff. It really is. I'm not the kind of person that just goes, I sing like this. I guess I'm a real musician with the voice and using the voice as an instrument and trying to, blend and trying to be tight and trying to sing phrase. And, I'm really trying to do those things as well as possible.
Yeah.
And when it's great and you sound like this, it's a really wonderful.
Oh yeah.
To hear that, and you think, okay, well, yeah, you're achieving the goal. You know what I mean? And obviously, you can't do it, every time. I mean, it's hard to be perfect with the voice live, and you can make stuff sound perfect in the studio, by any means necessary, but live, it's a whole other kettle of fish, and we're just doing as good as we can, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and you'll know those moments more than the audience if something doesn't go to plan.
Of course,
that's what you've kind of got to also think about. You said it there, the voice is human. The voice will go wherever it kind of wants to go, and then you kind of have to react to it on the spot. Okay, next time when I'm going to the chorus, let's maybe not go for it. Need to bring it down a bit, or listen. You're then reacting to the person that you're singing along with. There's so many things going on at once, and that's a skill in itself. There's so much multitasking going on.
Yeah, it is, and adjusting on the fly. You know what I mean? It's a fluid scenario,
Yeah, but it's great. When you mentioned about the harmonies, like stripping back from the studio version to then just the three, I was brought back to You Can Feel It, that I remember hearing live at the Jazz Caf and thinking, oh my gosh, those harmonies when they come out with you, they're so good, just strong and punchy. I think you're doing really well live harmony wise from what people know from the studio version. I think it's a great balance what you have coming out live.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, we're trying, man. We're certainly trying, and our heart's in the right place.
Absolutely. But you've grown your fans organically, like you said. You've got people from day one, or from Holland, and people that have been listening to you for a long time, and they feel the joy and energy from you guys. So I think it's just wonderful what you guys do and what you can do live. So just keep doing it because we want more.
Thank you. I mean, I have to say, this group, and this music, it's really, reaffirms kind of a lot of my core beliefs, which haven't been affirmed to a large degree in the past, because I put love in passion and fun and all I put all of, everything that I put into Young Gun Silver Fox, in terms of that, I put that into everything that I do. I'm all about, quality and putting love into it, and nothing gets treated like a redheaded stepchild. It's all important. It's all, what I mean? It's all done from the same place. And I believe in that. And I like to believe, ultimately that when you put love and good vibes and you care about what you're doing, you do it for the right reasons. I like to think that when you make music from that perspective, the other people, when they hear it, will feel and understand that. And so they'll see, oh, this has soul, this has feeling, it's real, and people respond to that, right? And it makes sense, right? It makes sense. But then, a lot of times you do that and it just seems to slip between the cracks. It falls on deaf ears, or people, whatever. People don't respond to it, doesn't resonate for whatever reason. I don't know,
Yeah.
But that's often how it goes. It just doesn't find as many people's ears as you want it to do, and or people don't they don't see in it what you see in it. You know, they have a different perspective, and people will tell you this or that, and you'd be like, really? That's what you think of this? You think it's that? I don't think that at all. But with this, you know, with Young and Silver Fox, I feel like people have understood exactly what it is, and they appreciate and everything about it that we appreciate. It's almost like it's a mirror image coming back. It's kind of like people get this. They understand what it is. They see that and hear and feel the sincerity and the joy and the all the work and the craft that's went into it. And they get that. And it's kind of like, and that is really like a wonderful thing, you know, to see like the music, you know, and the songs sort of are selling it. And people get that it's a genuine thing, and that, you know, that you know, we love it, and how it makes us feel is pretty much the same way it makes other people feel. You know, it people get the same thing out of it we do. It does feel like a very safe, you know, harbor, you know, from the world. You know, it's a really nice place to be, and it takes us away, you know, from, you know, all the shit in the world as well. It's like, and it just it ticks all the same boxes, you know, for us as it does for other people when they listen to it. So I mean, I don't know, it sort of like it just reaffirms everything I thought. You know, if you did good music, you know, good songs, then, you know, people will like it, you know. And then it doesn't have to be, you know, I'm never trying to be like super underground and niche. I mean, maybe I am. Maybe that's where maybe that's my natural, you know, habitat. I don't know. But, and if it is, fine, you know, but, you know, I'm just doing stuff the way I do stuff. And you know, I'm not pandering to people. But I've always, like, you know, you want as many people to hear the music you do as possible without doing that. You know, the hope is that, you know, people, you know, enjoy what you do. If you enjoy it, you know, and that this has turned out a lot more, you know, more effective in that front than anything else I've done. Which is, in a way, it's really a great thing, because it's like it's kind of the favorite thing that I've done. You know, it's all encompassing thing. It scratches the itch that nothing else does, because it's so enjoyable to write and record and perform, you know, and listen to this music. But it's also very challenging and very hard. And so it kind of like, it's easy and it's hard, you know, and it's listenable and light, but it's also heavy and layered and nuanced. It has a lot of, it works in every sort of way, you know. I mean, it could be pleasant background music, or you could play it in the headphones in a dark room and really get inside of it. And there's a lot under the hood. And so it's like really, really special. This music, it's really special. So for this to be the thing that's resonating the most of anything I've ever done is like a really wonderful thing, you know. And to also have such an amazing, you know, partner in this, you know, who I can, you know, kind of do what I do, and he does what he does, and I can listen to that and be right there with him and get all the benefit of his sort of abilities. And, you know, he makes me shine, you know, and I make him shine, and we make, you know, we elevate each other.
You highlight the best of each other.
Yeah. And I think even for him, that's a really nice thing. You know, it's like, he doesn't have to carry the whole thing. And he knows I have him, and vice versa. And that we, you know, that's, you know, the chemistry we have is something you can't engineer. You know, it's a real thing, and I know it comes across. I know people
Yeah.
buy into it. It's a very genuine, real,
Authentic.
special thing, and I think in a way, a duo scenario maybe is the best scenario there is. You know, you get two talented people together that bring out the best of each other. It's a lot more focused than a band.
Mm.
You know, where you got 4 or 5 people with creative tensions and everybody has their own agenda.
Yeah.
I think it's like, when two, to quote the Spice Girls, when two become one.
Good quote.
Yeah, and you can kind of share.
Yeah.
You can share in the duties and everything. It's not all on you, but it's but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
absolutely. And you've got each other's backs as well. You know how the
exactly.
other one works as well. So if someone, you can work really well together, you understand each other's terminology. There's so much pro stuff going on.
Yeah, it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
It really is a great
Yeah.
format. You know what I mean? And but I think it's special, rarefied thing, man, because
Yeah.
there's not a lot of. I don't know. Maybe there is if you started to think about it, but duos.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, I could probably come up with about 5 off the top of my head, and then Steely Dan, Hall
Yeah.
and Oates,
All
and
notes.
Sonny and
Hmm.
Cher. I don't know.
Yikes.
Peaches and Herb. I mean,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. There's not a lot,
Yeah.
or maybe there was. Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham. But
Yeah, yeah.
again, you get the thing where people are talented and whatever to a certain point.
Mm.
Somebody wants to do something different, or that what I mean.
Yeah. It is
There's tensions.
exactly. Yeah, it's very rare to find it that it's actually a nice working environment. Like it can start like that and then see, things happen, but it's very rare that it continues being this nice environment that you can work from one another and, help each other and build each other up.
I think the thing too, both me and Andy do other things,
Yeah,
and
of
so
course.
we have other creative outlets. So when we get back together, we kind of we know what it is, and
Mm.
it's an easy thing. I mean, at the same time, as I said before, it's easy and it's not easy because we're competing with ourselves now,
Yeah.
trying to beat ourselves. And every time you do something, there's always a moment of like, can I do it again? Can I do it as good? Can I do it better? You know what I mean? It's that kind of
Mm.
thing. And being able to sustain a high quality is a tough thing to do. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I mean, most people can't do it. I mean, there's the rare people that had that kind of whatever 3 or 4 album,
Yeah.
run of classic records. Like Stevie Wonder, Talking Book,
Yeah.
fulfilling his first finale. Songs of the Key of Life. Those kind of
They keep
things.
going.
You get you'll get bands, or artists that had that kind of classic period where they did 3 or 4 albums that were killing,
Mm.
and they just had like the Midas touch, and then they don't.
Yeah.
you know and so to be able to to be consistent
Mm.
is a real talent, but to be consistent without being kind of boringly consistent, like just doing the same thing over and over
Yeah.
because it's safe, that's another thing. But I think the fact that we've done 5 albums now, it's a quality level that we've done them at, but still feel like we're getting better at it,
Mm.
and I mean, for me, that's a real proud accomplishment, on a personal level. And I mean, we have to be able to do that to continue on. We have to feel that. As long as we feel that,
Yeah.
then it will continue, to grow, because it'll just keep getting better. And
Yeah.
whatever you distance yourself from other people in a way, because you like, these guys are the real deal. These guys are doing it. They're like, how do they do it? And I don't know.
Just happens.
Well, you know what? I know and I don't know. That's the
Mm.
beauty of you know, of music. I mean, I've been doing it for a long time, and I've learned a lot. But there's a lot that I'll never know, or a lot
Yeah.
that I'll never understand. But there's a lot that I do understand. But I sometimes just understand it. You do it because you do it. You're not thinking about breathing. when you're breathing, you're just doing it. You know what I mean? Or when you're talking, you're just talking. It's a reflex thing. So you're just doing what you do, and things start to become automatic, and you just let nature run its course. And so I really do trust in the gut instinct, and believing in the forces that are there, the things that are under the surface that you don't see. They're at work, and they're there for you, and you just have to be open and relaxed enough to let these things flow into you, to let the ideas and the creative muse, inhabit you and use you. It's not you thinking the idea is giving itself to you for you to see it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For it to come through you, and you're the facilitator for the things that are beyond you, that are just under your nose. There's just a lot. There's always another idea. There's always another thing. There's always another song. There's always another, chord progression. These things they're there. I mean, they're. You just have to be able to, to see them, to recognize them. You know what I mean? They're always there. The inspiration's always there. I totally believe that. And the better you get at doing that, the better you get at doing it. You know what I mean? It's not you that's doing it. It's like, you know what I mean? You're part of the process, but you're using your skills to whatever, to polish and manipulate what, what the creativity that exists, in the air, provides you with, and I don't know what that is. I mean, people can call it different things. I don't have a word for it, and it doesn't matter what it is, but it's a real thing, and it's there, and we all feel it. A lot of people can have interesting ideas because they just pop into your head. Oh, I know, oh, that's a good idea. But then taking that idea and then developing it and honing it and finishing a thing and actually doing it, that then other things come into the scenario to make that happen.
Yeah.
And that's when, having certain skills, come into the fold, to be able to do that. But I mean, I don't know. There's a whole invisible world that's existing, and we're just tapping into it, creative people, and following the trail of breadcrumbs where it leads us, and I really believe, I love the process of that. I mean, that's why I make so many records, because I love creating stuff. I love like learning and being a part of it, and it just gives me a lot of. It's never the same. It gives me a lot of. The process gives me so much satisfaction, and then you share the results with people, and you move on to the next thing, and you know what I mean. You
Start
hope
again.
and you just hope people like it. You know what I mean? And I'm just gonna keep doing it because that's what I do. It just becomes like, it's food. It's food for life.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Do you feel like you talk a lot about like following the gut instinct and being free with, not necessarily knowing where you're going, but just kind of tapping into that under layer almost and just letting it kind of be free. Is that something that you've always had, or have you worked on that to kind of get to the stage where you are now?
I think both.
Yeah.
I think, it's like, I kind of believe in that idea of first thought, best thought. But, at the same time, in certain scenarios, somebody else goes, nah. And so you'll be like, okay. And you, whatever you go to the second thought,
Yeah.
and if that doesn't hit, then you go to I think the thing is not to become bogged down with things sometimes. I think you have to be you have to search until you find the right thing. But I think sometimes people sabotage doing that, because they're like trying to find the perfect idea, and they never get to it because they never commit to the thing, and they always think there's a better idea. And I think maybe sometimes that first thought is the thing that leads you to a better idea, or the thing you build on it, and then maybe you slightly tweak the original idea. You know what I mean? Or
but
maybe it
stemmed
was
from that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's you can't get from letter A to letter D,
Yeah.
without going B and C in between. And so that's why I think if you trust these things
Mm.
and you move forward, and then once you get a little bit more information, then you can take a step back and look at that, and then analyze, is that right? Or what, maybe I need to change that, or rearrange it, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? There's that. So I think the idea of working really quickly, it really wins for me, because you have a really fresh perspective.
Yeah.
And I mean, the more you hear something, the more you work on it, the more you'll never know if how good it is or not. You're like, yeah, I don't know. It's like if you work quick and it's very visceral and very instinctual, then I think you're really close to. You're really close. You know what I mean? You haven't got away from that initial inspiration. You're riding that inspiration.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good way to be, man.
Yeah, it's so hard as well, because if you then do leave it and then you're not in that same mind frame sometimes, and then it just feels completely different when you come back to that initial thought, and it's like gone almost. Like
it's gone. Yeah. And, I mean, I work really fast, and but I've been really, really busy with touring.
Yeah.
In the last few years, and I've had tunes where I started and I got a couple hours on it. I got a great vibe, and then I'm too busy to work on it.
Yeah.
And then 3 or 4 months later, I come back to it and maybe do like one overdub or two overdubs and reassess what I had. And eventually, it'll get finished maybe 6 months from the time I started it to finishing it. And I really don't know about the songs anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I finished the last few things I finished like that. I got no feeling for them. I'm so far away from them.
Mm.
It was like it was too much time it went, by, and it's like I don't get the same feeling from it. I'm not sure about it.
Yeah.
And even me, who's very sure about what he's doing.
Yeah.
Even knowing what I know, that's how it happens, man. That's how it happens. I have to play it for somebody else and see how they react.
Yeah,
do they react to
yeah.
this? And even when I'm listening to it, I don't know. I'm still like, I don't know. I don't know about this. Maybe this is just like, maybe this is, maybe this is it's good, but good's like,
all right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm never going to do anything that's shit. So, you know what I mean? So.
No, but you want it to like move you. You want it to feel like you're still connected to it, even if then. So then, when you listen to it, a few years down the line, you can still remember that feeling of like bring yourself back to when you make that. But like, if it's been such a long time that you're distant when creating it, I think that's different, because then you're not in that same wavelength, mind frame, whatever you want to call it. You're just not in the same environment, atmosphere. It's different.
Nobody wants to do something that's above average. That's well above average, man.
Yeah, that's the perfect compliment. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's never, it's neither here nor there. It's not great and it's not shit.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, I guess a solid 8.5. Oh,
thanks.
Great.
Cheers.
I'd take a 9.2, but 8.5 is just might as well be like nothing. So yeah. Well, I mean, I think the most important thing if you're a creative person is if you have an idea, you must see the idea to fruition. So you must do it. You must finish. Always finish stuff and always continue on to the next thing. Okay. That's really, really important. That's how you get to a higher level of output, by doing it and getting better and not overthinking stuff and not taking too much time and not trying to make all the perfect moves. I think you have to make the best moves that you can make in that moment and encapsulate that and then move on, because your perspective is always changing and but you need to capture where you are at a time when inspiration strikes. And so I think it's important to finish.
Yeah.
Always finish. And also if you do music, you got to put stuff out. You got to put it out so it's out there.
Yeah.
And so you can move on to the next thing. And also people can, whoever, whoever wants to hear it can enjoy what you've done. You know what I mean? And then it has a life of its own outside of you.
Yeah.
And that's it's healthy,
Yeah, no, it goes like further than you, beyond you. It reaches other people. It means something else for different people. It's now no longer just sitting on wherever you've recorded it, like there. It's out for the world, and I think that is a healthy next step. Because, like you said, if it takes too long, it's just sitting there. You're going to keep coming back to it. Oh, let me tweak this. Let me change this, and then nothing happens. It's just becoming like just something that's lost its kind of initial spark and feeling.
Yeah, it's like 1,000 versions of one song.
Mm.
I mean, the amount of talented people that I've known over my life that have recorded loads of stuff and never put it out. And you'll hear, they'll play you something. Oh, this is really cool. And then it never comes out.
Yeah.
Or it does come out, but they've reworked it so many times and it wasn't as good as it was.
Yes, it's just changed too much.
And it's just like, man, there's nothing more pathetic than that. Like to go, oh man, that's just like such a waste.
Yeah.
It's like, people just, oh no, it's not finished. It's like it could be better.
Just get it out.
I don't know.
Yeah.
People just can't get over. They can't commit. They can't be like, because if they put it out, then they can't work on it anymore.
Yeah.
They can't like say, oh, I can make it better. No, you have to say, I stand behind this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Here it is. And then they don't move on because they never just drew a line under it. And I mean, I know so many people that have robbed themselves, and other people who would have enjoyed the music by doing that exact thing, by not following through and taking 5 years to make an album or 6 years. It's like, it's never going to be, even when it comes out, there'll be something about it that just doesn't.
Yeah.
You'd be like, it's never, you spent too long on it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know it. I've heard things that were great and then they weren't.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh man, you just like, you fucked it up, man. You fucked it up. But people shoot themselves in the foot. That's what people do often,
Yeah.
That's just part of it. Some people, that's their self, sabotage,
I was just about to say, like, self-sabotage. This is a strong thing sometimes, and it can just take over. Going back to the songwriting then for Young Gun Silver Fox, are you quite quick on just follow that initial instinct with Young Gun Silver Fox music as well? Do you kind of roll
I think Andy writes the song. So I mean, Andy's process is, he will write, 3 or 4 completely, different songs over a backing track sometimes, or
oh wow,
or it'd be like, oh, he'll write a different chorus or a different bridge, and like try to decide which one's the best. And he might then take that part from that version and that part from another version to get the best parts. Or he'll have a title laying around in a book, or we'll have like, like song fragments laying around, and then all of a sudden, oh, this goes really good with this music,
Yeah.
And then he'll extrapolate it, so it's by hook or crook. It's like whatever makes the best song. I mean, he's definitely not like settling on, the first thought that he had. I mean, he's definitely, he's definitely got a high standard of, what he expects from himself. And he wants to make sure puts his best, ideas forward. So, I mean, it just happens by, it's a lot of different ways of working that all collide into his process, so it's like writing from, the gut in the moment to, taking, he would do things where he would, write poetry or journal stuff all the time, or decide I'm going to write a song about bananas. and then how many things can I say about bananas,
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. He's a real like artist and student,
Mm.
and master of the art of songwriting. Like he's really, really, really into writing songs. I mean,
Yeah.
he's really like, he's a real passionate nerd for songwriting, and he's really, he really wants to write great songs. I mean, he's really like, I guess, I'm the same way with making records. I want to make, great records,
Yeah.
and stuff that sounds good, that's arranged good, that, you know, played good and every, you know what I mean? The
Mm.
whole art of record making, whatever
Yep.
that is. He's the same about songwriting,
Mm.
and I think it's a really, really high art,
Yeah.
songwriting. It's, it's not always like that. I mean, sometimes somebody could just be like, you can write a song and be like, oh, I woke up this morning and I was in a bad mood, and I burnt the toast, and I'm having a shit day, and that's the song. You
Yep.
know what I mean? Fuck you, fuck you. You know what I mean? You suck. That's your song, and it could be valid. It could be like you're saying exactly how you feel,
Mm.
and it's relatable and blah blah blah. But then there's like, there's other areas of songwriting and other ways to write a song, and there's wordplay and poetry and narrative
Yeah.
and imagery, and painting pictures with words, and writing you know from a third person perspective to writing something
Mm.
really personal, or there's a lot of different ways of doing it, and a lot of different ways of thinking about it, and all these different kinds of ways of working could, they could be, part of the same process at the same
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
or and so yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. There's something really magical about writing a song that people connect with,
Yeah.
and they can feel that, and it's relatable, but it has meaning, but it's not like, doesn't sound like cliche, and
Yeah.
rhyming love with dove, and and like the kind of things like a Lenny Kravitz lyric, I want to fly into the sky like a
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
butterfly, like this
Come on.
kind of, you know 8-year-old kind of rhyming scheme,
It's
you
finding
know
new ways to say things and keep it interesting. And like you said,
yeah,
it can mean one thing for the person writing it, but then also allowing it to mean something else to the people listening to it. It
exactly,
doesn't need to mean the same thing, and I think that's important as well.
it is, yeah,
Because you can get married to like what it means to you, and actually just listening to it's it reads very different, or it just hits different to someone else listening to it.
oh,
And yeah,
completely, man. Or sometimes you don't even understand
what it is trying to say. Yeah.
yeah, sometimes you don't even understand what the words are.
Yeah.
Like there's some like lines and songs, and I've been singing the wrong words for years.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were singing that. No, I'm saying that. Oh shit! I think you're like,
That's
oh,
why
that
it
means
didn't
something
blend.
different.
Yeah.
There's a song that, one of the new songs. I thought he was saying middle,
Yeah.
the word middle, and he's saying needle. And I thought he was saying something about being in the middle, and he's saying I'm pushing the needle. And then oh, what's pushing the needle mean? Oh, it's
Oh.
like a speedometer,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like making it go faster, pushing the needle, yeah, like that kind of thing,
Yeah.
or the level of something.
Yeah.
And then okay, all right, and then it's that kind of stuff. There's still like loads of his lyrics that I never realized that's what he was saying,
Yeah.
and you don't have to know all these things
No.
to get the gist of things.
Yeah.
You
That's
can be
true.
surprised. You can be surprised. There's songs from my childhood. All of a sudden, I realized, oh, he's actually saying that. I didn't
And
know that. I think there's she's gone. Hall and Oates. There's this
mm.
mask about. There's this lyric about. He goes thoughts bravado.
Mm. Oh,
I,
I know which one you're talking about now. I think yeah.
I didn't know, like back then. I didn't know what bravado was. So, and it was like, so I was like singing something phonetic when I sang along
Yeah.
to it. And then you're like, oh, then you hear it, oh, he's saying bravado. Oh,
Oh.
okay, okay, right, interesting.
Yeah. It's so when you start like fully like focusing on the lyrics, and then like you're just reading the lyrics, you're like, that makes so much more sense now, or it just like opens up a new kind of meaning. Even the other one, you kind of made it make sense for yourself, even though it wasn't the right words.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh, that's cool. Who are some of your inspirations? Just quickly tapping into your. You mentioned obviously Hall and Oates, and but do you have any others?
I mean, for Young Gun Silver Fox, I mean, the gold standard is like, Steely Dan.
Yeah,
Like when they hit Asia,
yeah,
when they became, like a studio thing, and that whole kind of sophisticated, you know, music,
mm,
high musicianship, well
yeah,
recorded, well written songs. So something that was musically, creatively, artistically very high standard and very sophisticated, but songs that were also on the radio
yeah,
and that were like people were listening to them. So they were like being popular and selling albums, um, uh, doing this music that was like super high class. And so that was kind of like, if you could do that, you're winning because you're just winning on every front. You're
mm,
having your cake and eating it too. So, I think that, Michael McDonald, Doobie
yeah,
Brothers period,
mm,
again, like the best stuff that they did operated in a very similar way.
yeah,
Um, I think, a few of the songs by Ambrosia are just like with the harmonies and the way they were recorded and
yeah,
so tasty. I mean, there would be that. I think, also soul music is like a really strong influence on me and Andy. And so there's
yeah,
that whole kind of, side of things is very strong in informing what we do. Bobby
mm,
Caldwell, What You Want to Do for Love, that song is like such a classic in that world
yeah,
and not in that world. It's just like every time you listen to it, it's just so, it just, it's just a perfect song, a perfect record. Everything about it is just so magic. It's
yeah,
so right. It's undeniable, and it's enduring and endearing, and so yeah. I mean, I think those are big influences, and maybe the sort of Rod Temperton era
mm,
stuff with Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson. I mean, I think again those are like some really really well made, you know, tracks, like
yeah,
rock with you and stuff like that.
yes, yeah,
They're
yeah,
just like really amazing records, man. They're just like, so much greatness, or Give Me the Night, George Benson, would be another good example of raw temper to Quincy Jones and those studio musicians,
lovely,
that are
yeah,
involved in those recordings. I think, those things would be like, those things would set the standard
mm,
for, kind of what what we've been trying to do,
yeah,
is going, these are the guys, the best guys that ever did this, you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and, if, they set the benchmark and we have to measure ourselves up to this, otherwise there's no point, there's no point of like doing it pretty good. We have to do it as good as they did it. And then if you can do that, in the course of, attempting this, we became ourselves,
mm,
and we were like, okay, now and it was a gradual thing. At a certain point, I sort of realized, what, it holds up. It holds up. It's as good as those records.
yeah,
We're actually doing it.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's not like a pale imitation. It's kind of like we're carrying on from this music and doing it now in our own way, and trying to take, the very best of that music and build on that,
mm,
and avoiding all the other aspects of it that were maybe, things that we didn't want to carry on,
yeah.
so, you know,
I think that's why it speaks to so many people because it is that kind of familiar sound, but just new. Like, it's got that same feeling, but it's just now elevated into now, like you said, like, can you take in the parts that you want to take on and then adapting and creating and just making it your own? And I think that's something that you've highlighted really well. Obviously, you mentioned Rod Temperton, and I just want to mention Moonshine as well for those who haven't listened, because that was a wonderful collaboration, right? Like
It was.
Yeah.
I mean, that song had sat around unfulfilled for
Yeah.
a very long time, and I was always on about Andy. Like you should have a go at that.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't know. And then he finally, every time we did an album, I would mention it, and then after we did, the last album, it was done, and I said, well, what about having a go at it, and he said, oh, okay. So he sent me the demo, and I listened to it, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck to do with this, man. I was like, it's got to be good. I mean, it's Andy and Rod Temperton. It has to be a good song. But the demo was so horrible.
Really?
It was so horrible. I was like, I don't know how to approach this. I don't even know what the beat is. So, I can't even find the one.
Where is
I'm
it?
like, what key is this in? It was like looking into the sun. I was just blinded.
A little guidance here, please.
So yeah, be careful what you ask for.
Yeah.
And so I said to Andy, I said, look, can you play some Rhodes chords and do a guide vocal to a click track and send me that, and I'll listen to that. And I think, you know what, maybe I can hear how to approach this when I just hear the chords and the lyric and the melody. And sure enough, the second I heard it, I know what to do. Yeah. And then I just did it. But I also did it going, this is an unreleased Rod Temperton, Andy Platts song. And, I have to do this justice. This has to sound like a lost track, it has to be as good as those records were. And so it was like, I can't fuck this up. I gotta do it justice. And I mean, and obviously I think, the result came out that way. I did do it justice. And I mean, I had to. You don't have a choice. You don't have a choice to fuck it up. You gotta do it right. And so, it was a pleasure to do, and it was a pleasure to finally see that song get released. Because, as I said before, there's nothing sadder than something sitting on the shelf and collecting dust. And so I felt like it was my responsibility and my privilege to help, give
it its life.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm so glad that we did it and it came out and people got to hear it and that it goes into that canon. Of with Rod Temperton's name. That we can all be proud and happy about it. You know what I mean? And hold our heads high and all that. My dog, she's going.
She's back.
She just got off my lap. She's like, "Would you want a treat? Look at this."
Oh,
look at that.
I won't keep you for too long anymore. It's been such a pleasure talking with you and just
you too.
Talking about the album Pleasure, that will be out by the time this is out, and obviously your rehearsals, your UK tour will be done, I think, by the time this is out, but so I hope that goes well.
Yeah, me too.
I can't wait to see you guys again at some point because everyone's so busy. But yeah, thank you so much
for
taking the time.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Yes, absolutely. And yeah, I'll talk to you very, very soon.
Okay, Jen. Have a good day.
Bye. Bye-bye. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Dog was so cute. And when the dog needs a treat, you gotta go. I truly enjoyed talking with Shawn Lee. It was so insightful, so many wonderful things that I picked up that now I'm just really inspired and want to start writing this second. And of course, with the words of Shawn Lee, I'm going to finish and stay in that mind frame. I think that's really important though, because then sometimes I do long out a writing session and then I'm just not in the same place. Sometimes that is beneficial because then the middle eight becomes this thing that you were once really stuck on and then it's grown. Anyway, everyone's different, everyone works different. If you're writing music, keep going at it. And if you've seen Young Gun Silver Fox live, let me know in the comments below because I'd love to hear your thoughts. As I said in the middle, as I said during this episode, I'm a huge Young Gun Silver Fox fan. I truly love them and I can't wait to see them live again. Go stream Pleasure. It is out on all major streaming platforms. And of course, go and check out my debut album, Ep.8, over on Bandcamp. You can purchase it right now as a digital download or a vinyl record, or of course, very soon it'll be coming over on all major streaming platforms. I hope you enjoy it. Do hit that subscribe button, a bell button, and thumbs up button. And if you're listening over on Spotify, do go and hit that follow button. Remember to check me out over on Patreon as well. And yes, have a lovely rest of your day. I will see you very soon for another episode. Bye.